thank God for ground effect. But essentially we're looking at safety. See Yankee Romeo landing in front of us. That really is a beautiful aeroplane. And yeah, well, I've got about a couple of hundred hours on repeat. My first solo. Bond helicopters can recall a minor contretemps back in 1972 when he happened to be a passenger in a Tiger Moth which collided with my rear fuselage over Weston-super-Mare. A fairly spectacular photograph resulted from that, which was syndicated around the world. And I certainly owe my neck to a Mark I bone dome, which was immediate owner. The authority, we get a recommendation from the evaluator, and we obviously have a veto. We look at it, we look at the recommendation, and decide whether it's appropriate, whether it fits in with what we're giving other pilots of similar experience, and it's a controlled situation where people can progress as they gain an experience on the type of aircraft involved, which range really from hot air balloons right up to early in their career, just to keep our own personal fingers on the pulse. The distances out are, as I mentioned, appropriate to the... And I hand over to Squadron Leader Les Garside BT, their manager, of course, for this year. To Carno, Nimrod, whose crew should be on their way back to it by now. Most impressive. Outside the Vulcan, probably the most impressive single. Bureaucrats happily call options for change, which is Whitehall language for running down the armed forces, particularly these videos for 15... material in there for a novelty in it. 8,000 pounds of thrust on reheat, looking for 350. Supersonic, it was a compromise. One never finds out as a passenger, they're built into the system. Way up over, assuming 12 o'clock to be looking out across the airfield. In 2 o'clock, coming up to 1 o'clock, you'll see the Vulcan cruising. Dave Morgan flying it today. The wind conditions weren't right for the Blackburn B2 to come to us, meant of course that we had 6 or 7 minutes available on the program, so we're extending 1 or 2 items. Last time I spoke to him on the subject was an instructor pilot at the OCU at Lynham, 242 OCU. He's a sort of specialist Hercules jockey. Was involved in the South Atlantic business some years ago. Previous trainers, elementary and basic trainers, like the Tiger, the Chipmunk, the Harvard, had been tandem, one behind the other, and side-by-side seating was introduced as a policy matter. A number of good reasons for doing it. You can see, you can watch what the pupil's doing and correct mistakes. Pupil can watch sir's face and see when he's doing something wrong. Communication is very much easier, and instruction is very much tornado. Chris Cutler, shots to Carno. Quite a different cry from the Forest now coming into land. In fact, he's also probably going out to first. Back in that, of course, gave... one of the last occasions, unless we can do something about it, that anyone will ever see a Vulcan in the air again. A lot of us think it's very important that we should try and save this airplane, that
It should be kept going. People here today collecting to have a second thought about just scrapping it. It's a very expensive item. Lives at Chivana. RAF have 2 rescue helicopter squadrons. 22 Squadron with the Wessex and 202 Squadron. Based at mostly air sea rescue requirements. Now a fairly elderly design. Wessex has seen long and faithful service, very good service, with the Royal Air Force, with the Navy. The Westerns went on to original one was, original Wessex was single engine, had a single Napier Gazelle, and this one, the HC2, I think is home engines. That's a girl. Wessex served with a number of RAF squadrons all around the world. '03 Squadron. Still out, I think, in the 103 now, I beg your pardon. It's not 103. At Aldergrove, currently, in Northern Ireland. 84 now with the Sea King. Parent group, the maritime group of both the Wessex and the Sea King helicopters with the RAF also run a search and rescue training unit. That's up at Valley in Anglesey, where 4 flying training schools live. Polite dip towards us. Equipment and things will be delayed by a year or so.
Aerobatic team, the Red Arrows. The team has arrived in a formation shape we call 9 Arrows. The 9 will drop in behind the other aircraft to form what has become the trademark formation of the Red Arrows, the diamond. Left, watch as the team pull up in Concorde for the Concorde roll. Fine, another change in the formation shape. It's 4 and 5 on the outside of the team have dropped back very slightly. This time, it's our impression of the shape of the American fighter bomber, the F-15 Eagle. And now to enable us to get a closer look at Eagle, Adrian will bring the team back and smooth blue for the Eagle bend. Freya Fortisham. On the very outside of that spearhead, on the left-hand side, that's Flight Lieutenant Jerry Bird. Jerry's the 3rd of the 3 new pilots for 1992. The Met Germany and number 1 Squadron at Wittering in Cambridgeshire joining the team. And he was also a weapons instructor on the Hawk of the first half of our show. The main section of 7 aircraft are actually performing what we call the fan, and underneath them, the 2 aircraft smoking red and blue are the synchro pair. And stand by now for the synchro split. The opposition barrel rolls. Now to the right for the return of the synchro pair. And watch as they fly right through the middle of the main section for the goose. And if you follow the main section out to our right, watch as they perform the steep climb, trailing the tradition. And it's one we call the mirror bend. If you'd like to look to the front now, please, and up to the leader to roll under, and the rest of the aircraft to follow the leader for the twizzle. Hard 180-degree turns. The team members are all pulling about 4 points roll. Formation shape we call Vixen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Red Arrows.
Destroyer HMS Nottingham, which come back has been out with the Royal Naval presence in the Adriatic during the continuing confusions in the Balkans. Experience with links and very intense and successful battlefield use in the Falklands and later in the Gulf confirmed this as being one of the world's best shipborne helicopters of its type. Well over 370 links have been sold to 13 customers in 12 countries. Helicopter and small ships remain small ships, including corvettes. Cleared to operate in sea state 6 and frequently has done so in sea state 8, which is very, very rough seas. Lynx has a wheeled undercarriage rather than skids, which makes deck maneuvering easier. And it has a harpoon deck lock system. Harpoon engaging in a grid in the deck, which once the Lynx is down, enables the pilot to...
Hey, can we delay this before we go?
The first trials took place. Succeeded the Wasp as the standard anti-submarine hunter-killer helicopter, capable of carrying depth bombs, torpedoes, ordinary HAS-3 helicopter anti-submarine. Central command console, if you like, coordinating all the activities on board. Powered by the Rolls-Royce GEM, the highly successful Rolls-Royce helicopter engine. Carries in the nose 360-degree search radar. That's the Sea Spray 3 radar. It's a very versatile helicopter. It can be equipped for anti-submarine or anti-surface ship warfare, for over-the-horizon targeting. The great thing about having a helicopter on your ship is that you extend the ship's defense and attack capability way out over the horizon, way beyond where the ship's own defensive and offensive weapons could reach. And this is particularly important if you're holding fast attack craft at arm's length. The missile-armed, small, very, very fast attack craft is a difficult target to hit, and if it's allowed to get within range of a ship, it can well have launched its weapons before you can knock it out. The use of the Lynxes on board ships in a force, you can pick up and attack enemy fast attack craft long before they've got within distance of launching their own missiles. And that basically is what we mean by extending the ships carrying torpedoes and markers for anti-submarine work. The sea spray, for anti-sea spray, will pick up rough seasteads, which produce a lot of clutter on radar screens, or can do. Lynx is also, as you will have noticed, Lynx is also aerobatic. In recent years, over the last 10-15 years, design of rotor blades has become rather less complicated. The enormous number of flapping and drag hinges that were required, speeds you could operate them. And now with rigid and semi-rigid rotors, the rotor head, the hub, has become very much less complicated, and it's possible to have much faster and much more agile helicopters. Aerobatics, of course, is not part of what a service helicopter would normally be designed to do, but it does point out the extreme agility of the helicopter, and therefore the fact that it becomes a very difficult target to hit. The original helicopters, way back in the days of Vietnam and Korea, of course, were extremely vulnerable targets. They were used mostly for transport, supply, and casualty evacuation. The concept of the heavily armed gunship or naval attack helicopter, which could look after itself like any other aircraft, was a long way from people's minds. So we've come to that now, and the helicopters have got as much chance of surviving in the battlefield as anybody else. And that's why they need to be that agile, which they show by doing things like loops and very steep turns at a display. Like other helicopters, you can equip Lynx both for stalled carriage or for search and rescue. 2.5 hours, and all that on one load of fuel. And that's workhouse for you. That really is a workhorse.
At the St. John's Ambulance. At Keith Patrick, will you meet your son Gary and Paul at the St. John's Ambulance?
Weigh a great deal. 600 pounds is barely enough. And were instrumental in removing the Iraqi Navy from the scene of operations fairly permanently. We carried 2 of the long-range Penguins for attacking big or heavily defended targets. And again, that polite helicopter nod, shared only by the Harriers and Sea Harriers. Lynx can be used to pass target data, get it right eventually, back to its ship, enemy targets with its own missiles. It's an extremely versatile helicopter and still under continuous development. And I see our Sea Harrier moving out now. Then he'll be displaying. In front of us now, Sea King helicopter, used in recent years very largely offensively as an airborne early warning platform. We saw them going out earlier on, you may remember, with the piston provost was displaying. In use with helicopters, as they tended to be treated on major airfields, commercial ones, as fixed-wing aeroplanes. Most in Tommy done after a long taxi. You can't just take off from Catalina, best known for its, in this country anyway, for its service with Coastal Command as a very long-range anti-submarine aircraft operating out over the Atlantic and participating in numerous attacks on U-boats in the Bay of Biscay. By 1943, and you might catch a tired one with an exhausted crew after a long patrol, hoping as they got almost within sight of shore that they were safe at last, but with things like the Catalina around, you could never be certain. This particular Catalina is made up in the markings of John Cruikshank, a young officer of 210 Squadron,